We spend a massive amount of time on this show obsessing over technology. We talk about the newest processors, the most advanced firewalls, the AI that's going to change everything. But today, I want to pivot a little. I want to talk about the one component in the security stack that, you know, never gets a software update. I want to talk about how easy it is to hack a human being.
It is a bit unsettling when you frame it that way, but you're right. It's arguably the most critical vulnerability in any system. You can have the digital equivalent of Fort Knox biometrics, encryption, the works, but if you can trick the person sitting behind the keyboard into just opening the door, none of that fancy tech matters.
Exactly. And I think most of us, when we hear cyber attack or scam, we have this very specific, slightly outdated
Cartoon in our heads, right?
Totally. We think of the Nigerian prince email or those messages riddled with typos telling you that you've won a lottery you never entered. We laugh at them. They're obvious.
Right, and those are the digital equivalent of just, throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what sticks. They send millions of them out, knowing that 99.9% of people will just delete them. They're playing a numbers game.
But the sources we're looking at today are describing something completely different. It's a method that is surgical, it's personal, and frankly, it's kind of creepy. We're doing a deep dive into spear phishing. And just the name itself, it implies a weapon.
It does, and that distinction is vital. If regular fishing is like casting a massive net into the ocean hoping to catch any fish, spear fishing is a diver on the boat, spotting one specific fish, aiming carefully, and striking.
That's a terrifying visual. Thank you for that. But it sets the stage perfectly. The source material we have today is basically a field guide to this threat, how it works, why it fools even really smart people, and how to stop it. And I think our mission here is to move past the basic advice of don't click weird links. We need to understand the psychology behind why you might click a link that looks totally normal.
And that's the really scary part. It often looks exactly like the truth.
So let's start with the definition, just to set a baseline. The source defines spear phishing as a targeted cyber attack. The keywords there being highly personalized.
Yes, that is the whole differentiator. In a regular phishing attack, the scammer doesn't know who you are. You're just an email address in a database of millions they, bought on the dark web.
Oh.
In a spear phishing attack, the scammer knows you. Or, well, they've made it their business to know you.
The source outlines the methodology here, and step one isn't send an email. The first step is research.
Right, this is the reconnaissance phase. And this is what people don't really get. Before an attacker ever types a word to you, they might have spent days, even weeks, building a little dossier on you. They aren't guessing. The source notes they're looking for specific things, your name, obviously, but also your job title, your organization, and crucially, your connections.
Right. It mentions they look for known contacts, your boss, a client, a supplier, maybe even your bank or where you went to school. And I guess in 2026, finding that info isn't exactly hard work.
It's trivially easy. I mean, think about your own LinkedIn profile for a second. What's on there? Your full name, your exact job title, your company name. But look closer. You probably list your core responsibilities. You might list the software you use, expert in Salesforce, proficient in AWS. You think you're advertising your skills to recruiters.
But I'm also advertising my attack surface to hackers.
Exactly. If I know you use Salesforce, I know exactly what kind of fake login page to send you. If I know you just posted about attending a marketing conference in Las Vegas, I know exactly what context to use. Hey, great meeting you in Vegas. Here are those slides we talked about.
And the source brings up another gold mine for these guys, the out-of-office auto-reply.
Oh, the auto-reply is just a gift to scammers. Think about what you usually write. I'm out of the office until Monday. For urgent matters, please contact my manager, Sarah, at this email address.
I have written that exact email a dozen times.
And in doing so, you've just told the attacker 3 things. 1, you aren't watching your email, so you won't spot anything weird. 2, Sarah is the person to impersonate or target. And 3, Sarah is probably expecting urgent requests because you're away. You've just written the script for the attack on your own boss.
That is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, they build this profile. They know I work in marketing, they know my boss is Sarah, and they know we just launched a new campaign because I tweeted about it. What happens next?
Step 2, they pretend to be someone you trust. And then step 3, they send a message that looks genuine and relevant.
Relevant is the word that really sticks out to me in the source material. It's not just, hey, click this. It's tied to what you're actually doing.
Precisely. The source says they use real details to craft the message. So instead of a generic update your password email, you might get an email that looks like it's from Sarah, your boss, referencing that marketing campaign, asking you to review a budget document.
And because it mentions this specific campaign, my guard goes way down.
Completely. The source highlights the psychology here. These messages are designed to feel urgent, familiar, and believable. There's a concept in psychology called System 1 and System 2 thinking.
Okay, let's unpack that.
System 1 is your brain on autopilot. It's fast, instinctive, emotional. It's what you use when you're driving a familiar route or answering a simple question. System 2 is slow, analytical, and deliberate. It's for solving a math problem.
And when we're wading through 200 emails a day, we are squarely in System 1.
Exactly. We're just scanning, delete, delete, reply, archive. A spear phishing attack is designed to keep you in System 1. If the email looks familiar, it's from Sarah, and it feels urgent, need this by 5 p.m., you just react emotionally. You don't engage the analytical sister 2 to check the email headers or look closely at the URL. You just want to get the job done.
That's the trick, isn't it? They aren't hacking the computer. They're hacking your desire to be a good employee.
It's a confidence game, pure and simple.
Let's walk through some of the specific examples the source gives. I think role-playing this a bit helps to see just how subtle this can be. These aren't just hypotheticals. These are the archetypes of attacks happening right now. The first one is the manager email.
This is a classic. Sometimes it's called CEO fraud or business email compromise. It relies entirely on authority.
Okay, so the scenario is, I get an email, it looks like it's from the CEO or, some high-level exec. The source describes it as a request for an urgent payment.
Right, so you see an email from the boss. Subject line is usually something like urgent wire or confidential project. The body says, hey, I'm stuck in a meeting with key stakeholders and can't talk, but we need to get this vendor paid by 5 p.m. today or we lose the contract. Can you wire this immediately? I'll sign off on the paperwork tomorrow.
And look at all the pressure points there. Urgency, authority, consequences. If I don't do it, I'm the bottleneck. I'm the reason the company loses the contract.
And notice that little phrase, I can't talk. That is specifically designed to stop you from calling them to verify. They are preemptively cutting off your safety check.
And I'm not going to write back to the CEO and say, are you sure? Or this seems weird. I'm going to try to be the hero and just get it done.
Exactly. And usually the email address is spoofed. It looks really similar to the real one, or in the worst case scenario, they've actually compromised the boss's email account, so it really is coming from them. But the mechanism is just your deference to authority.
Okay, here's another one from the list that I find really tricky because it's on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The supplier trap.
This one is insidious because it is so boring.
Right. The source describes it as a fake message from a known supplier with an updated invoice.
Think about how many invoices a business processes. If you work in accounts payable, or even if you're just a freelancer, you get invoices all the time. It's just administrative noise. So if you get an email from a vendor you actually use, say a design firm, and they say, hey, huge apologies, we changed our bank details. Please use this account number for the invoice attached. You don't panic. You don't feel fear.
You just feel annoyed that you have to update their info in the system?
You just process it. You update the routing number, you pay the invoice, and the money goes straight to a mule account in another country. You might not realize for months until the real vendor calls asking why they haven't been paid.
It doesn't trigger any alarms because it's just mundane work.
Correct, and that's why it works. The scammer has researched who your suppliers are, maybe by looking at who your company interacts with publicly on Twitter, and they just insert themselves into that chain of trust.
Speaking of Twitter, the source also mentions a brand interaction. This one feels a bit more modern. A social media DM claiming to be a brand you recently interacted with.
Yeah, we live our lives on these platforms now. So let's say you're traveling. The airline loses your luggage. You're angry. You tweet a complaint at the airline. Hey, where is my bag?
I've definitely done that. It's the only way to get a response sometimes.
And then 5 minutes later, you get a DM from airline support saying, we're so sorry about the delay. Click here to file a claim and locate your bag.
And I'm thinking, wow, great customer service.
But it's a fake account. They monitored the hashtag or the mentions, saw your vulnerability, and swooped in. The handle might be slightly off at Airline Help Desk instead of the official one. But in your frustrated state, you click the link, you fill out a form with your personal info, maybe even pay a delivery fee.
It's the timing. The timing makes it feel legitimate. You did just ask for help, so the help feels relevant.
It's predatory. They were just waiting for you to raise your hand and say, I have a problem, and then they offer a poison solution.
The last example here is the document request. This one seems like it targets our curiosity or maybe our fear of missing out on work.
The source describes this as a request that appears linked to your real work or activity. Please review the attached Q4 projections. Here's the revised schedule. Shared document, Staff salaries.
Oh, staff salaries. That's a clickbait title if I ever heard one. Everyone wants to know what their coworkers make.
Curiosity is a powerful vulnerability. But here's the catch. You click the link, and it takes you to a page that looks exactly like your company's login portal, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, whatever. It asks you to sign in to view the document.
And that feels normal. I have to sign into things all day long.
But it's a fake page. You type in your username and password, and nothing happens. Maybe it redirects you to the real homepage, or it gives you an error. You think, glitchy internet.
Yeah.
But you've just handed the keys to the castle directly to the attacker.
That leads us perfectly into the danger section of our source material. What is the actual goal here? If they get my login, what do they do with it?
The source lists the loot, and it's a scary list. Obviously, money is on there, but login credentials are often way more valuable than a one-time payout. If I have your login, I can access your email. And if I have your email, I can reset passwords for your bank, your social media, your internal company databases.
It's the master key.
It is. It allows for account takeover. Once they're inside your email, they can just sit there for months. They can read your correspondence, learn how you talk, learn the rhythm of your business. They're gathering intelligence for a much bigger attack later.
The source also mentions one-time passcodes or OTPs. Those are the codes you get via text, right? To prove it's you.
Yes. And this is a really important point because people think OTPs are bulletproof. Scammers know we use them, so a spear phishing attack might try to trick you into sharing that code.
How would they do that?
They might trigger a login that sends a code to your phone. Then they call you, pretending to be from IT support, and say, hey, we detected some suspicious activity. Did you just get a code? Could you read it to me so I can verify your identity and block the hacker?
That is devious. They are using the security measure against you.
If you read it to them, you just help them bypass your security. You open the door for them.
So why is this so much more dangerous than old-school spam? We touched on the psychology, but is there a technical reason the spam filters aren't catching these things?
The source notes that spear phishing bypasses spam filters more easily, and it comes back to that spear versus net concept. Spam filters look for patterns. Mass emails sent to thousands of people at once. Keywords like Viagra or lottery.
But a spear phishing email...
It's often just plain text. Hey, Tom, do you have a minute? It's sent to one person. It's written in normal business language. To a computer, it looks like a perfectly normal conversation. There's no virus attached yet, no link yet. It's just text.
They're flying right under the radar.
And because it bypasses the filter, it lands in your primary inbox, not your junk folder. And because of that, you're already primed to trust it more. You assume the safety nets did their job.
So we have an attack that's personalized. It bypasses our tech defenses. It tricks our brains into autopilot. And it leverages our trust in our colleagues. This sounds, well, it sounds pretty bleak.
It's not hopeless, but it does require a shift in behavior. The source pivots to defense strategies, and they're very specific. And the good news is, you don't need to be a computer scientist to stop this.
Let's get into that. How do we protect ourselves? The source mentions being cautious with urgent or unexpected requests.
That is the first red flag. Urgency is the scammer's best friend. If you feel that spike of adrenaline, I have to do this and now, just pause. That emotional reaction is a signal that you're being manipulated.
But sometimes things are urgent. My boss really does need things quickly sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't just ignore a request because I'm trying to be secure.
True. Which brings us to the golden rule of defense from the source. Verify requests using a separate communication channel. This is the single most actionable piece of advice in the whole guide.
Okay, explain that. What is a separate communication channel?
It means you need to step out of band. If you get an email asking for money or sensitive data, do not hit reply. If the email is fake, your reply just goes back to the scammer.
So I have to find another way to reach them.
Exactly. Pick up the phone and call the number you have saved in your contacts, not the number in the email signature. Or walk over to their desk. Or send them a message on Slack or Teams.
Just a quick, hey, did you just ask me to send a wire transfer?
And 99% of the time, they'll say, what? No, and you just saved the company.
That seems so simple, but in the moment, it feels like an extra step. It feels awkward to call the CEO and double-check on them.
It is an extra step. It's a bit awkward. But think about the alternative. It takes 30 seconds to verify. It takes months to recover from a data breach or wire fraud. A good boss will thank you for checking. A bad boss, well, that's a different deep dive.
Fair point. The source also lists some digital hygiene tips. Don't click links or open attachments without checking.
Hover to discover is the mantra here. Just hover your mouse over the link before you click. Does it actually go to company.com, or does it go to company-login-secure-dat-update.biz? The URL never lies, even if the text of the link does.
And finally, the source mentions a technical safety net. Use multi-factor authentication, or MFA, on all accounts.
This is completely non-negotiable in the modern world.
Explain why this helps with spear phishing specifically. If I gave them my password on that fake login page we talked about, aren't I doomed?
Not if you have MFA. Think of your password as the key to your front door. If you give the attacker your key, they can walk right in. But MFA is like a deadbolt that requires a fingerprint.
So they put the key in.
But the door won't open. They try to log in with your stolen password, but the system prompts them for that second factor, the code on your phone or the prompt on your authenticator app. The attacker is in Russia. They don't have your phone. So they have the password, but they can't get in.
It stops the account takeover, the source mentioned.
It is the seatbelt. You might crash the car, you fell for the phishing email and click the link, but the seatbelt, the MFA, saves your life.
I like that analogy. So let's look at the big picture here. We've gone from definition to defense. Spear phishing is not a numbers game, it's a confidence game.
That's the headline. It relies on research. They know who you are, they know who you trust, and they use that to slip past your defenses.
And the main defense isn't necessarily better software, though things like MFA help immensely. It's better skepticism.
It is. It's about changing your default setting from trust to verify, especially when money, data, or credentials are on the line.
And realizing that we need to stop feeding them information. Maybe we don't need to post every single detail of our work lives on public forums.
A little bit of privacy goes a long, long way.
So here is the takeaway for you listening right now. Next time you get an email that makes your heart rate jump just a little bit, maybe it's from the CEO, maybe it's a terrifying invoice, maybe an urgent alert from your bank, take a breath. Don't click. Find a separate channel and verify it.
Be the human firewall.
I want to leave you with a final thought that really struck me reading this guide. It's about the nature of trust in the digital age. In the physical world, if a stranger walked up to you and knew exactly who you were, where you worked, what you were doing, you'd be terrified. You'd run.
You would call the police.
Exactly. But in the digital world, when a message arrives, knowing exactly who we are and what we're doing, our instinct is to trust it more. We think, oh, this must be legitimate because it's so accurate.
We mistake accuracy for authenticity.
Right. So the provocative thought is this. If a message fits too perfectly into your life, if it knows just a little too much about your workday, that is exactly when you should trust it the least.
A chilling but necessary reminder.
Stay safe out there, keep your guard up, and thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay skeptical.